You will never guess how many superfoods are in this delicious recipe for making a sweet and tangy, no-bake cheesecake. And it gets even better because not only does it include real cream cheese, but it's gluten-free and naturally sweetened. It's also nutrient-dense with 5 superfoods, including sweet potatoes, chia seeds, almonds, oats, and topped with fresh berries. And as a bonus at the end of this video, I'll show you a sugar comparison between a traditional cheesecake and this recipe. So consider yourself warned. Now this may seem a little bit unusual, but I'm using sweet potatoes in the cream cheese filling, and that's because they're light in color and they have a very subtle but sweet flavor. It also helps give really good body and shape to the cheesecake when it's stored in the fridge or at room temperature. And you'll want to make sure you get the white sweet potato so that it has that white color inside. So we're going to begin by simply peeling our sweet potato. Oh, that's a fun shape. I'm not sure how to peel around that. Then you'll want to cut the sweet potato down into about 1/2-inch chunks. And I found the easiest way to steam the sweet potatoes is by using a little steamer basket inside of a medium saucepan. You just fill it with hot water to the bottom of the tray, and then you let it boil on high for about 15 to 20 minutes until your sweet potatoes are fork tender. So I have a medium sweet potato here that I peeled and cut into cubes and then steamed and then allowed to cool. I like to do this ahead of time, even the night before or a few hours before I'm going to make the cheesecake. I'm excited to show you how to make this crust. It's super easy but has tons of flavor and is nutrient dense. And it's easiest to make using a food processor. We're going to begin with 1/2 cup of almonds, and then we want to turn our food processor onto high just to grind up the almonds first. There we go. That's the perfect crumbly texture. And now we can add 1 cup of oat flour, which is just quick or old-fashioned oats ground in your blender. And then we'll add 1/4 cup of almond butter, 2 tablespoons of maple syrup, 2 tablespoons of coconut oil, and an additional superfood, which is 1 tablespoon of chia seeds. And you can use white or black. I prefer white just for the aesthetic. And then to give the crust a little bit of that graham cracker flavor, we're going to go ahead and add barely a tablespoon of molasses. This is optional, but tastes delicious. And then we're going to add 1 teaspoon of vanilla, 1 teaspoon of cinnamon, and 1/2 teaspoon of salt. And then we'll go ahead and blend this until well mixed. All right, that looks great. And you'll know it's the right consistency when you can squeeze it together and it holds its shape. I'm using a 9-inch springform pan, but you could also use an 8-inch. It'll just be a little bit thicker. So we'll start by giving it a quick spray with some nonstick. Now we'll simply dump our crust down into our pan. So we can first spread it around with our spatula. And it looks very similar to a graham cracker crust that you're probably familiar with. And then I find it's best just to go in with your hands and really press it down. Even put a little weight into it. All right, that looks great. Now we'll go ahead and set this aside while we make our filling. We're going to use our same food processor bowl to make our cream cheese filling, but you'll want to rinse and wash it first because we don't want any of those little crumbs to get into our cheesecake filling. We'll begin with 12 ounces of cream cheese, which is 1.5 blocks. Seeing all that cream cheese makes me so happy. Then we'll add our superfood sweet potatoes chunks that have been chopped and steamed and allowed to cool. And then we want to add about 2/3 cup of the solid part of coconut milk. So what I've done is taken my can and just stored it in the fridge, and then the coconut cream part is going to solidify. And we'll go ahead and just scoop out the solid part. So we'll add 2/3 cup of the solid part of our coconut milk. Then we'll add 1/2 cup of maple syrup, 2 teaspoons of lemon, 1 teaspoon vanilla, and 1/2 teaspoon of salt. And then we'll put on our lid and let this blend until it's nice and creamy. About halfway through, you'll want to open it up and take a spatula and just go around and scrape down any of the cream or maybe any little pieces of sweet potato that may have gotten up on the sides, just to make sure it all gets very well blended. We'll put our lid back on and then let that go a little bit longer. All right. Ooh, that looks fantastic. Now for a very important pinky test. That is sweet and tangy and cream cheesy. Exactly what you want. Now we can fill our cheesecake pan, but we want to make sure we first get as much cream off of our blade because we don't want to waste any. Now we just simply scrape and dump it all into our pan. That smells so good. Now you can also use a muffin tin and make these as individual little cheesecakes, or you could fill two 6-inch springform pans. So I'll go ahead and just smooth that around. That's just the perfect consistency. Well, my kids are at school right now, so I get dibs on the spatula later. So now that's full, we just want to kind of wiggle it around a little, give it a few taps just to evenly spread the cheesecake. Now you'll want to put this in the freezer for about 2 hours, and that's going to help it set. And then you'll be able to release the clasp on the springform and be able to take off the sides. And then you're going to have a really nice and clean, neat edge all the way around the cheesecake. And you can put it back into the freezer if you're not going to be eating it right away, or you could put it into your fridge to maybe wait until after dinner time. Or if you're wanting to enjoy it right away, you can just set it out on the counter to thaw for a few minutes. Here's a cheesecake that I made yesterday and stored in the freezer. And then you can see it can easily just unsnap the ring and be able to take that right off. And then you get this beautiful edge all the way around your cheesecake. But before I cut this, I'm going to show you how to make a very simple berry compote. You might become a little obsessed like I am when you find out how easy it is to make a healthy berry compote sauce. You'll begin with a small saucepan over medium heat, and you'll add 1 cup of either fresh or frozen berries. And if you're using frozen fruit, you can go ahead and place a lid onto your pan for the first minute or two just to help them defrost a little bit quicker. You'll want to stir frequently so they don't stick to the bottom of your pan. And now they're starting to melt and soften. We're going to go ahead and add 1 tablespoon of maple syrup, but you could also use honey or even agave nectar. And to add a little flavor, we'll add a teaspoon of vanilla. And to freshen it up a little, we'll give it half a teaspoon of lemon and about 2 dashes of salt. And then we'll go ahead and let this simmer and just keep an eye on it. We're waiting for that fruit to be soft enough that we can smash it with a spatula. So we're almost there. Now that our fruit is nice and soft, I'm going to turn down the heat just a little bit. And then with a potato masher, I'm just going to come in and squish it down so that it's nice and smooth. You could definitely leave it on the chunkier side if you like. Now that that's all nice and mixed, and go ahead and turn our heat to low, and then let that simmer for about maybe another 4 or 5 minutes just to help it thicken up just a little bit. I allowed it to simmer for about 4 to 5 minutes, and that looks absolutely gorgeous. Now you could pour this into your jar as is, but I prefer to blend it down so that it's really smooth. So I'm going to transfer it just to a shallow bowl just to allow it to cool off for a few minutes before I blend it. That smells incredible and looks so delicious. So now that that's cooled off just a little bit, I'm going to use the chopper cup that comes with my immersion blender. And it has this great little blade in it that is perfect for the job. So go ahead and just pour the sauce right into the bowl. And then we'll simply place on the lid and then blend it on high. All right, ooh, that's perfect. Take out our blade and then spoon all of that delicious sauce, or compote, the official fancy word, into our bowl. Now that we've made our sauce really smooth, I'm going to pour it into a little squeezer bottle. And this is going to make it really easy and convenient to be able to pipe it onto the top of our cheesecake. I am a little excited here. It's such a simple technique, but it's going to make us look like pros. All right, we're finally ready to cut and serve our cheesecake. So I'm going to take my knife. Ooh, I'm a little nervous cutting into it. It looks so perfect. I'm going to go ahead and eyeball down the center. Cuts very easily. Okay, so far so good. Now go ahead and take the slice out. Oh yes, look at that gorgeous slice of cheesecake. Now we could enjoy this as is, but I think we need to make this extra special. So we definitely need to add some of our strawberry compote to the top. So I'm going to hold my finger over, shake some down, and then we'll just drizzle it across the top. Look at that. Oh my goodness, that's so beautiful. But we're not done yet. We need to add some fresh cut strawberries to the top. I'm sure there's lots of ways to do this, but I'm just going to make some real simple slices. Oh Oh, yay. Oh, that is so beautiful. Oh, fork, forgot a fork. Add a little extra piece of strawberry to the end for my perfect bite. That is incredible. I'm getting 3 different levels of delicious flavor. First, I get the richness of the crust with that little bit of oat and the almonds, as well as that little touch of molasses that makes it taste a little bit like graham cracker, but gluten-free. And then I get the sweet and tangy cream cheese layer that isn't too sweet, and it has just the perfect amount of body to it, and I would never guess there's sweet potatoes in it. And then I get that delicious fresh strawberry on top that just absolutely elevates this to another level. That is phenomenal, and I am so excited for you to try it. And now for the sugar comparison I promised. A traditional slice of cheesecake has about 47 grams of sugar in it, and that is equal to about 12 sugar cubes. Whereas a slice of our cheesecake only has about 10 grams of sugar, and that is equal to about 2.5 sugar cubes. And I painted them brown just to represent the fact that it's natural sweeteners. So clearly this is the healthier option, but it still is a treat and should be eaten in moderation. And I promise you, you will not miss all the white processed sugar of a traditional cheesecake. I know it sounds a little strange to use sweet potatoes, but it dramatically cuts down the amount of sugar without compromising on flavor and sweetness. It makes me so happy knowing that we can enjoy cheesecake that is both emotionally satisfying, because we're eating cheesecake, but also physically satisfying because it's nutrient dense, it's anti-inflammatory, and it's easily digestible, and we're not gonna have this huge sugar spike or headache afterwards. Well, thank you so much for hanging out with me today in my kitchen. This was so much fun to make, and I hope you have a chance to give it a try. And if you'd like to see the recipe card for this video, please visit my website, gentletummy.com. And I also invite you to like and subscribe to my channel. And if you know someone whose day would be absolutely brightened by a no-bake healthy cheesecake, please share this recipe with them. And I cannot wait to have you join me in my kitchen again next time.